A participant has joined the meeting.
We certainly would want to help.
Who's calling user number 2? Calling. Can anybody hear me? Is this thing on?
I can hear you, but it's not me. Hello, Carissa. Hello, everybody else.
Hey, Will, how you doing?
Good. I want to respond to you. I didn't want you to think you were out there alone.
Oh, thank you.
Carissa, I don't know what caller number I am, but this is Sarah McLean. I'm just on the phone today.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thanks.
Looks like we're just waiting on Chief.
Yeah, the chief and I were just going off another call. So you should be joining us.
A participant has joined the meeting.
Put them in the sharp container, or how do you get rid of those? Okay, so that's no problem. You take the sharps, where do you take those? Yeah, okay. And that's what? Yep. Yeah. No, I just remember it's just something else. Is there anything else that you can pick up?
Hey folks, good afternoon. This is Jengis.
Good afternoon.
John Lou Brandt
has joined the meeting.
Are we ready to start?
I think so, Mayor.
I just want to kick it off with some welcoming remarks. Thank everyone again for your time commitment, being with us here this afternoon. We're starting to narrow down the timeline to process the information, get things compiled, get it in a format that we can submit to the city council, get the approval, and get it formally filed with the governor's request. I think goes back to DCJS. Start with Sarah or anybody. The actual survey. Again, I want to remind people, if you haven't taken the survey, make sure you do, and make sure you take the opportunity to push it out to any of your constituencies, neighbors, members of organizations you're in. We want that input. We want people's thoughts and ideas. And just wonder, do we have any update in terms of how many people have taken it, or what the threshold we're looking for to make sure we're able to deem it successful?
Chief, you know if we have any update? Mayor, Chief just stepped
He's
up.
asking Sarah.
Yeah,
I don't know if Sarah's on the line.
Is Sarah on the call, or?
I can fill in for Sarah, but I
Sarah
hope she
McLean?
feels.
Has left the meeting.
Oh. Well, anyway, 400, Sarah just reported to me, since she's having some technical issues, we have about 400 respondents. And with respect to any kind of a target or minimum number, really, I think what we have right now would be more than sufficient, since the survey was originally designed to be supplemental to the community conversations. But you know, obviously we'd welcome more, but I think we're already in a very good spot.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah, I would just add, there was the original outreach.
Wait, go ahead.
The original outreach, you can see we had a lot of responses around the 27th and 28th of January. And then I'm not sure what happened, maybe February 1st or 2nd. We had a whole big push again then. So maybe that was the email that went out to the group that Carissa sent. So I would say if we're going to send reminders, whatever we originally did with the public media, and then maybe it was a series of emails around February 2nd, because that got a really big push in response rate again. But it looks good.
Awesome,
That's
Sarah, that's great to hear. When we had our meeting last week, I sent everyone that participated in our community conversations back in the fall the link to the survey, as well as the press release that we did. So that's great to hear that people received it and that they're taking that survey. That's awesome.
Yeah, good. All right, thanks. Sorry about the technical issues.
And Chief, do you want to take over for the benchmark and analytics, or?
Sure. Sure, I can do that. Can you hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. So for those on the committee who may not have heard the Schenectady City Council Committee meeting, and I didn't really go into it too much with them, but one of the things that we were kicking the tires on over the last year and a half, 2 years, but had not decided on. I approached the mayor and asked if it was financially acceptable to go this route, and he said yes. And it's to enter an agreement with a company. It's called Benchmark Analytics, and it is to purchase a software system that allows us to better track our workforce. And the system is something that we looked at, multiple different systems, and we finally agreed that this one best fit our needs. It allows us to create an officer profile that includes a lot of different data points on them, such as the training that they have received, their activity out in the field, all of their use of force, and each individual use of force. We collect better data on that specific use of force. They have their own form. electronically that they fill out that allows us to better create reports quicker. All of our Office of Professional Standards cases will be input into this officer profile. Their community engagement efforts will be put into their profile along with their performance evaluations. And within this software package, it's very user-friendly for both the officer to update their own profiles with certain permissions, such as if they attend a community service event, they volunteer time, they can go in there and put that in. And then, all different commanders are able to update certain things like obviously the use of force in the OPS cases would have to be at the commander level. Activity is directly connected to our CAD and RMS systems. So it's something that we, as a part of this collaborative, decided on moving forward with because being able to better communicate with the public certain data points, certain reports like use of forces. As we found, the report that we gave you, we weren't, while it was good and probably better than a lot of other departments have, we found some areas that we would have liked to have more information. This is going to allow us to have that. Built within this system is an early detection alarm that will go off. Then we can set these alarms to whatever categories we want. So a platoon commander or even a sergeant will be notified should an officer have, multiple use of force cases or multiple complaints. We can better identify it quickly and ahead of time before there's a problem. We could merge complaints with training a lot easier to see, well, these are the complaints. Let's look and see what kind of training this officer has or if he lacks training. So it's a really cool tool. We're looking forward to using it, and if anybody has any questions on it, I'd be happy to try to answer them. It's not yet implemented. We still have to go through the city council approval on Monday, but it has made it out of committee with them. I don't believe it should be a problem. Questions?
So Chief, I'm assuming there's nothing in place like that today, right? So you don't do that level of tracking / giving access to officers to upload their stuff, etc. We do, but it's mostly siloed, and it's mostly man-made databases between Excel spreadsheets, Microsoft Access. A lot of paper files, so we have all this information. It's just siloed. It's not brought back together. If a commander wanted to get that snapshot of an officer, they may have to go to different locations. Commanders that work midnights and afternoons don't have easy access to it as they will now. So that's the difference. Okay. Did you discuss this with the sheriff also to maybe see if there's a purchasing leverage you guys could do with doing it for the county sheriff?
It's fair to say that most of the things that I do as it relates to this, I run it by the sheriff. We did get a discount off of this, and I mentioned it to our salesman that, that I would mention it to the sheriff, and he agreed that he would pass on that same savings to him. So, yes, I believe I have mentioned it to the sheriff.
Yep. Yeah, from whatever it's worth, from basically an employee access and tracking thing, I think this is a very good thing. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to seal the deal on this. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I think it's fair to say that internally, this is something that we've always wanted. What's probably pushed us over the edge here is that we recognize that the community, through these conversations, has shown that they would like to hear more information, and for us to be able to have it more readily available, to provide it to the community in the form of reports. That's what this is really bringing to the table in response to the request of the community. So, okay. Move on to the next topic, Mayor.
Yes, the Epic Enable.
I'm going to let Lieutenant Masheron explain what these two are.
Sure. This is Ryan Mastron. So over the summertime into the early fall, we took a look at a program. Former Commissioner Idens and myself had a chance to sit on a little bit of a training with a group called ABLE, which ABLE's out of Georgetown University. And it's in partnership with a global law firm called Shepherd Mullen. ABLE builds off of a program that already exists
Has joined the
in
meeting.
New Orleans called the EPIC program. And the idea and concept is pretty simple, at least in concept. It's the idea is to empower officers to be active bystanders. It's called active bystandership. And that would be meaning that the officers have would be empowered to step in and prevent harm to civilians, would be empowered to step in should they see misconduct and prevent harm to other officers. And the third focus really from the ABLE program is supportive and officer wellness and understanding that, we've kind of spoken about it before, but kind of the component of officers being able to take care of their own, their self as well will equal better policing. So we took a look at the program. We sat on a training with them. There are about nine things that you kind of have to accomplish in order to become a part of the ABLE program. It does seem like a pretty well thought out program. And again, it's free. The nice thing is it is free of charge for us. There is no cost associated with it, but it is a culture shift, and you really are kind of buying into more than just saying we're going to be doing, training these things once every couple years or something. Really, you would have 8 hours of training for the officers initially, and then you would commit to at least 2 hours of refresher training. Plus, you'd have to be working kind of under the ABLE program and conversing back and forth with Georgetown throughout the entire time that you have this program enacted here at the police department. I provided Carissa with the link for ABLE, which kind of just provides probably a little bit better description of the program than what I'm describing here. But again, the idea is to empower officers to step in when they see misconduct, and also step in when they believe that an officer, it's in the officer's best interest. It sounds like common sense, but from doing the training with Commissioner Idens, I think it's just human nature sometimes to just kind of try to continue on and not step in. So I hope I described it the best I could here. Probably answer a few questions on it.
Ryan, I just have one. Is that a family member behind you, or is that just a fan club you belong to?
That's my picture of my hero, Bernie Sanders. Get this year with my face superimposed.
Those are your new
I hope
mittens.
a few more years from now he'll be back, but
Are those your new mittens?
till then he'll live there for me.
Well, hey, you've got all the right courage to have it up on your wall and everything. That's good. And I can see what happens there. Just to make it clear, right? So this is officers intervening with other officers who potentially might be heading down a misconduct path, right? That's what it is.
Yeah, and it could be long term like that, where if you see somebody going down the path of kind of just going in the wrong direction career wise, or it could be in the moment, stepping in and saying, physically preventing an officer from going in the wrong direction, whether it's with an arrest or some scenario where the officer needs redirecting. And it really is kind of empowering officers to be, the person in charge and to take that step to intervening when they have to.
And I have the link for the ABLE project. I put it in the chat, but I'll also loop back around with everyone via email. So you guys can check that out too.
Hey, Lieutenant Master, this is Carl. I apologize for not having my visual on. Just got back from the gym. I took a moment to go onto the website, and it definitely says that it's no cost. Did they talk about any contractual agreements or commitments for like a certain amount of years? That way they're getting the, data, and then also that the agencies that are joining this have every intention of remaining in despite any unforeseen issues?
So I went through the training and then through kind of going through their paperwork here on the website. I didn't see anything as far as a number of years that you needed to sign on for. You do have to commit to staying in constant contact with Georgetown, who I'm sure would be extracting data from the program. So you are committing. That's one of the 9 kind of prerequisites to receiving the free Train the Trainer training, is that you would basically commit to a continued dialogue with Georgetown throughout the entire partnership. But I didn't see anything. I may have just missed it as far as how many years you would commit to and things along those lines.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I think that if I'm going to add anything on this program is 2 things. It may not cost anything, but it is there is a cost, a resource cost to the agency in the form of a program director. Am I correct on that, Ryan? Where we would have to assign this as a job responsibility to at least one person within the organization, and then build out a couple different roles, such as peer support, build out, which we kind of have already, but access to psychologists, things like that.
Correct. Yeah, you do have to have a program coordinator. And if you look at the 9 kind of prerequisites there, you'll see, I think that's number 3, just that we would designate somebody in charge of it for the agency.
Yeah. But, you know, the other thing I was just going to say is that what I like about it is that at least, you know, when I came on 19 years ago, a lot of the things that rookies are taught is just don't talk on my call, just do what I say. And I think that's one of the cultural things about policing that is very hard to shift away from. 19 years later, I think I just heard over the last couple of days that there's an officer who may have only started 9 years ago who prides himself on acting a certain way like that. And while 80% of the organization may have shifted away from that, there's still that 20% that's leaving that legacy behind. And this is a program that might eliminate the legacy altogether, because as the more we start talking about things like this, like it's okay for a rookie, even if you're on day 1, like we saw in Minneapolis, to step in because it's the right thing to do. You know, the chiefs are giving that officer the authority to do so if it's the right thing to do. And that's the message that we need to consistently send here. Any questions or comments on this? Any more further?
No, it's good. Thanks for sending the website link out. It's very informative, so I think we can pull it from there. It says that it was started in 2014, it seems. Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like from when I kind of from the stuff I've gone through with it, it looked like it may have started out of New Orleans. And then kind of this year, police interest grew to be so large that it transitioned from being called EPIC, which was kind of specific to New Orleans, to now being ABLE, which is kind of put out by Georgetown and their partner agency.
Okay, thank you, Ryan.
And Chris, do you want to go over like the timeline, just or any areas we should focus on to make sure we're moving toward completion?
Sure. So the deadline for the survey is the 15th of February. We're looking at trying to figure out writing through the plan, and like Chief has mentioned before, there's some ideas of you know, certain reforms or things to implement throughout. In terms of, and I see Councilmember Porterfield's on the call as well, so that's great. If any other council members are on, I apologize if I haven't seen you, but we're looking to at least have a call for the public hearing on, I'm just looking at my calendar, February 16th. With the idea that our final action by the council would be March 22nd, since April 1st is a Thursday, and that doesn't coincide with the city council schedule. So Councilmember Porterfield will be reaching out to sit down with each of the council members just to make sure we're all on the same page and giving you guys an update of just expectations to make sure we're meeting them. And then again, in terms of just, you know, getting through your networks and making sure that folks are filling out that survey. During the public comment period, once the plan goes to the council, I think that's another important piece of this, making sure that everyone's heard and we go from there. Did I miss anything, Chief?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, we are, you know, we're implementing things that we feel that we've heard from the reform committee, from the steering committee, from the conversations. We're implementing things that we feel can be implemented right away. We have a list that we're accumulating that we feel fit in certain areas of discussion that we've had, that we will be that we're, you know, in between researching right now and finalizing, and we will be communicating them to Dr. Warden, Dr. McLean. We're also responding back to some questions that they have that from the conversations to clarify a few things that we do. So you know, we're hopeful that as we get closer to the time that they have a report to provide, that at the same time we will have some things that we've thought about to address some of the things that have come up in all of this. I guess what I would ask of the steering committee is, in your role here as steering committee, please assist us with bringing forward anything that you feel is important that we have not discussed up to this point. Please help us with communications into the public. For the most part, everybody on this call has some attachment to some organization, whether it's government, private, or community-based, or even faith-based. Communicate the fact that this steering committee is here. If anybody has anything that they feel is not being said or heard on the steering committee, please bring it forward. We want to hear it. And please help us get this survey promoted even more. It sounds like our numbers are really good so far, but it's really just a fraction of our community. So the more the better for getting feedback. We still will allow testimonials to come in. It's not like they're not going to be read or heard. Whether they make it to the report or not, it's a different thing, because we do have a timeline crunch. But once this report is done and sent on to the council, it doesn't mean this whole thing is over with. We will still listen to the community and what they want. So you know, we're in crunch time right now, and it feels like we're drinking out of a fire hose, but I think we'll get there. If anybody has any input, please bring it forward. I'd appreciate it.
Right. And just to reiterate what Chief said, just because the governor has a deadline of April 1 and with the council is March 22nd, our work will continue throughout. This isn't just you know, we're done when the governor says we're done. The work will continue. So we're looking at short-term and long-term goals. And things that are already in process, like the hiring advisory panel, which is a good example of the work that's coming out of this as well. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just a couple of months. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilmember.
Oh, and Councilmember Karen ZW is on the call as well. So I apologize I didn't miss you.
All right. So I just want to say, first of all, I was really happy to see the survey and that's getting pushed out and people are responding, and that so more people's voices will be heard. And I also want to say, you know, I really like the ABLE project that was described today. And I'm happy to see that within this steering committee and with this initiative that we're doing things even before the April 1st deadline, that's, you know, that there's things that can be implemented immediately, and that's being done. I think that's outstanding and necessary. And also the benchmark, which the chief did say that he brought to the council the other night. So I think those things are really important, and I'm glad that we're able to do things even before, because even after it gets to the governor on April 1st, I think there's going to be some time before they do whatever it is that they do. So the fact that there's things that are being recognized and brought forth by the community, and then this steering committee and the police department and the mayor specifically we're able to move those things forward. I think it's outstanding, and I think it speaks volumes to what we're trying to accomplish here in terms of creating a higher level of trust within the community and realize that their voice is being heard. So I want to thank you for those initiatives that that you could have waited on, but chose not to, knowing that it makes a difference into building the trust that we are trying to gain between our communities, all communities, and our police department. So I just wanted to voice that and to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Porterfield. I do have just a couple of mundane logistics questions. So Finn Institute, Dr. Warden, Dr. McLean are working on a report relative to the outputs from the community conversations and the survey. The chief and the police department, you've got a certain set of other items. What's physically going to go to the city council? Is it going to be a recommendation on policies, or is it just going to be these reports? Or I'm just trying to get an understanding of what the communication transfers are.
It has to be all of that in my mind. Is how do you? So it's the summary, but then what are our goals and objectives and recommendations for again policies that we're going to use in the future. And I don't look at this as like a one day where everything comes to a conclusion. It's got to be a dynamic process going forward so that you use the relationships that we've established with members of the community. We're rethinking how we do things, looking for partnerships to evolve going forward. I'll use the example of mental health calls. We're not going to have that solved by the 1st of April. But it's things that we're looking at. How do we do it differently? How do you do it from the initial intake in the dispatch? And what's our appropriate response in the community? It still may be that we're going to send a police officer to the scene initially, but it's not going to be the police officer's job to remediate or make recommendations for what the outcome is. We're going to have to bring in is it mental health professionals? Is it counselors? And it's a wide matrix of things that we're trying to balance. And and I feel fortunate just because of the dialogue that we've got going and the kind of what I'll call the synergy or energy that's in the room, that it's an open and creative environment, that we're going to look good. It's not all going to be April 1st. Some people are going to focus on that, the be all end all, but it's not. It's
yeah, Mayor. I mean, I appreciate everything you're saying. And look, I'm just bringing it up here to us as the team that I think ultimately, the question I raised, we're the ones who have to answer it, right? But I think, I'm just, what is the best and most effective way to communicate to, I think number one, the city council, so that they know that they're looking at a set of policy recommendations, right? I think that's the key thing. A lot of the other information, I think, are really the background that gets distilled to some very pointed policies, right? I mean, at least that's the kind of image that I have in my head, but I'm a little concerned that I don't know if we as a task force have enough time to do that distillation, right? That's why I'm bringing it up, because there's a series of distillations going on, right? From the community conversations, from the surveys, to then the Finn Institute report, right? Then there are the other activities that you mentioned, Mayor, right? In terms of like with the with the call center and the mental health calls, et cetera, right? So it's just, like I said, it's a logistic thing that I think maybe at some point we do need to discuss, or we do need to address. And I just want to, like I said, at the end of the day, for the people on the call who are the city council members, right? What is it that you want to be able to look at? Do you want to look at a 200-page report of, what came out of Constitution, what came out of the community conversations, right? Or do you want to look at something that really represents, this is a distillation from this task force and the various Finn Institute, the police department, et cetera. Here's what the policy recommendations are, right? I somehow feel we need to have an expectation of what that communication looks like.
I'd have to say I'd have to agree with you on that because it's important that, you know, what we're looking at. I can say from my personal perspective, I definitely would love to see the recommendations. However, I'd also like to see the backup material because I would take the time to look at that and how they came to that. So, you know, it does need to be based on our time frame that we're in February. And this has to be done by April, and we're talking mid-February before the we even call for a public hearing, and that means 2 more weeks after that. So we definitely have it's kind of a short time frame, and so we do need something concise to look at. But again, as I said, I think that I personally would love to see the background and how we came to these recommendations. My understanding of why the Fin Institute was brought on board was to do that for us, to gather the information and to put it in a certain format. And you know, we would definitely take a look at that. But I'd like to see it all, but leading with what the recommendations are based on what they've done. And I have a further question, and this is for regarding the public hearing. So I can hear what documentation is going to be provided to the public to prepare for the public hearing?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Something got a little garbled. Could you repeat that, Councilwoman?
Yes, my question is, what I'm hearing feedback from somebody's computer, so whoever's not muted, I think that's what it is. What documentation is going to be given to the city, the residents, to prepare for the public hearing? They're going to need to, you know, read something or know something in order to prepare themselves for this public hearing. So what is going to be provided to them, and sort of in what time frame, so that they have an opportunity to take a look at it?
As we discussed last week, I mean, our plan is to deliver a report to the steering committee by March 1st. We didn't presume to make any judgments about how that would be disseminated to the Schenectady public. That's obviously not up to us. That's up to all of you, the steering committee, and the Common Council.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that everything that we've done up to this point that's been shared amongst the steering committee should be shared with the public. And then, you know, as we will be completing a report similar to what other communities are doing. It will most likely be the report that we received by the Fin Institute with our recommendations. And but you know, we have everything that we're putting on the website right now as far as watching the videos that's open to the public, and a lot of the research material that we've been using up to date. All of our policies are already public, so it may be a lot of us pointing to certain places to look at what we've used as a basis for this report, in addition to the report to the council outlining, you know, this is what we've come up with, this is what we heard, this is what we're coming up with.
So let me submit that if we're going to be calling for a public hearing on this topic, which is like really hard to get your arms around, even if you've been sitting you know, in the steering committee, that within our call for a public hearing, there needs to be something in written form that can go out to the public, and included in that would be the directions to the various recordings that have been done and ways for people to access them. But I think that there needs to be an overall summary that goes with that, because first of all, everyone's does not have access, nor are they going to go to the website to look at things. So I believe that a summary is needed as we do this call for public hearing, so people can educate themselves if they care to comment and to participate in that public hearing.
Understood there. Yeah, we will definitely have that.
Yep.
Did anyone have anything else on this topic at the moment?
Just one minor thing. So do you have communications responsibility for the city, or do you have someone who works with you doing that, or is that your job too?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Jang?
I mean, are you the one responsible for communications from the city, or does someone else have that responsibility?
We've got a team in our office, Alex Sutherland, our director of operations, and myself. Okay. And especially with this specific project, we've been working with Lieutenant Mascherone and Chief Clifford and his PIO team.
Okay, good. Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So I think so we've got a lot of good stuff here, right? That's the key thing, and it's just a question now of, you know, channeling it the right way for city council members, for the public, for, you know, where there's obviously commonality, not just the source information, but also to, I think, what people see. But I think, okay, I think it was about time we kind of discussed this, because we do have to at least, we have to draw a line in terms of what that milestone needs to be.
Will, do you ever hit? Yeah, what's up? Hi.
Yeah, no, and no, I absolutely second what Marion saying, because with a conversation like this, we want to make sure that we're being transparent, not only with ourselves, but with the community at large, because this is kind of what we told them we would do. So I think it's important to make sure we're setting kind of clear objectives with a very clear timeline as far as where everything is and where we plan on going, because this is kind of what this steering committee was put together to do. So I think it would be a disservice to the community and to the city as a whole to not really have clear objectives and timelines as far as what we've done and what our plans are moving forward. So I believe that everybody on this call is kind of committed to that essence of change, but to do that, we have to make sure we're holding ourselves to a level of accountability as well. So
absolutely. So one of the things that I'm working on is creating this timeline document, as well as where we are next steps, and kind of sorting out with Chief Clifford and the mayor short-term and long-term goals and possible policies and reforms as a working document. So once that's complete, we can start to share that. And then just going back to what Councilmember Porterfield said, by all means, of course, we're going to make sure we communicate properly in terms of next steps and what's expected of the public, and to point everyone in the right direction, because like you said, it's a huge thing to get your arms around. So the over communicating of where resources can be found and what we can provide, and how we're still open to answering any questions or concerns or any feedback is like you said, it's vital to this entire process.
And I was hoping to have some of the stuff available on, more broken up components. I can see, like, the day we get the survey results back, that's going to dominate it. That information, people are going to want to look at it, analyze it, draw their own conclusions. And if you have that can tend to overshadow other things. So it's, how do you get the summary of the testimonials that have happened, the survey results, some of the internal modifications that are happening within the department themselves. It's pointed out today, some of the programs that we are doing or looking to implement. Any one of those could just, they would draw everybody's attention to. We do the press releases on them. They're going to be the center of it. And I want that, the whole continuity of the process and all the information to be there in a manner so that it's equally considered and weighed and reviewed. So it's, how do you get it out more in a piecemeal manner, but then it's ready for the public hearing at the end in a comprehensive, or as Marion pointed out, in other ones, in a summarized manner that people can evaluate and analyze at their leisure or their own personal desire to spend time on.
Thanks, Mayor. Dick Shave, did you have anything to report on CPRB, or Carl?
Well, we
finished our retreat, which turned out to be 3 separate Zoom meetings over the past few months. We came up with a report of sorts. Basically, we came up with policies we thought might be changed and voted on them and sent the entire result to City Council. And they've been doing a little talking about it. And we're sort of in moderate hiatus now, clearing cases and seeing what people think. And that's the report.
Is that available to the public, what you sent to the City Council? I'm sure it is, right?
Sure. Your email is available. I can just send it to you. Several people have asked for it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's something that goes out to the whole task force. Maybe.
Okay, I'll send it to Carissa and she could promulgate. I can do that now.
Sounds good. And then I wanted to, Chief wanted to check in with Jamel if he's still on. Any updates with him?
Yeah, Will and Carl, one of you guys had tagged Jamel as to give an update, but one of you guys could do it also.
All right. So for us, so far, we've met with, I believe, 7 candidates. We're starting to kind of work out our process. I think the good thing about the new hire panel that we're working with is we come in with no bias, and there's a very clear objective of how we address our process. Currently, we're in the means of discussing how we would like to disseminate information to the community about some of the work that we're doing. Because again, we don't want to talk about specific individuals, but we want to just have a very clear communication of where we are, what our process looks like, and how we're going about doing the work that we're doing. I think what's been great about this process is it's a phenomenal blend of panel members and their aspects and what we all bring to the table. So it's been a really good balance as far as the conversations, the discussions, and the way we hold each other accountable for the work that it is that we're doing. So I'm thankful. I'm excited for what we're doing, in uncharted waters. I look forward to continuing to create something phenomenal to bring to the city, because again, I believe in that element of change, and I believe everyone that's a part of this project really does as well. And what's really been interesting, honestly, for me specifically, and coming from the community and not understanding the hiring process for police officers, and seeing how you view the candidates prior to being hired, and understanding really the human element has been really eye-opening, because again, a discussion like myself and Mr. Jamel Muhammad conversated about, as individuals who had a different experience with police in the past, to be in this situation, it's not something we ever really thought we would be doing, but it speaks volumes to the work and to the position that we're in, to really sit down and have these conversations and see how human-like and these different elements of all these different candidates. So it's been great. It's been a really eye-opening experience. I'm thankful to the city and to the chief for allowing us to do this work, and it's been great. So, Carl, if you got anything else, please, chime in.
You definitely captured it really well, Will. I think the inclusion of us as community representatives to be equal stakeholders in this process is rewarding and eye-opening. And I think at this point, we want to make sure that this process stays genuine and that we don't grow too fast. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and I'd like to just add to this that, especially over the last 2 weeks when we've been interviewing some candidates, I think it's fair to say, and Will and Carl will attest to this, that the conversations that we've had after the candidates have left have been equally as valuable to everybody, both the panel and even us as a command staff. We've learned just as much just from those after talks, those post talks, about a variety of different things that they're certainly valuable to us. We've already started preliminary discussions of an expansion of sorts. I don't want to go down too far down the road, because as Carl mentioned, we have to proceed slow here. Let's get the core of this mission functioning perfectly before we expand. But I see this as evolving more to a citizen advisory board, where, we meet regularly for advice and perspectives for the executive staff of the police department to learn more from representatives of the community about everything that we do, not just hiring. And the one of the things we talked about the last set of interviews was, how do we best communicate this to the public? A lot of the stuff that we're doing here. So this is certainly one forum to do that, since we do have some reporters on the call. But we'll have to start thinking more about how we'll do it more regularly and effectively.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Chief, can I ask how many people are on the board currently?
Right now we have a total of 5, and that includes Ron Gardner. So 4 members of the community plus our affirmative action officer. And it's fair to say that we've already decided to add 2 more to make it 6 plus Ron, so it'll be 7 total.
Okay.
So we just wait until after these set of interviews for the expansion.
All right. And so in terms of diversity, period, gender, et cetera, is there a diversity there on all aspects?
Not yet. That's another topic that we've been discussing. It was originally by design, all persons of color, but we've been talking about that. We've been talking about inviting a representative of our Caribbean, Guyanese, Indian community to the board. I think we have representatives of our Hispanic community already on the board, but we've been talking about diversity, and even as the expansion were to go on, different representations across the spectrum, not just race or color of skin, but as far as sexual orientation and even community dynamics, like businesses, businesses that might be operating in the city where people come and spend their money.
So it's all male right now, though. Right now?
No, we
No,
have we
there's
have
a female on the board.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And I believe that was kind of the discussion we dug in really the last time, was understanding that our community has really evolved. So we wanted to make sure, as a true representation of our community, that we took in consideration all aspects, not just race or color, but economic, education, sexual orientation. We wanted to make sure that we had a very fair representation, because we, as Carl stated, we want to make sure that we're protecting the integrity and authenticity of what it is we're building for the city, for the community, and for the police as well. So, that it's interesting. That is definitely the conversation we were literally just having, over the last 2 days.
And we've even had discussions about modeling some of the discussions that the Civilian Police Review Board has had on the form of this, in that every representative will have a secondary, a sit-in the case that they can't be a part of the conversations. They'll have a fill-in that represents their viewpoints, maybe the organization that they represent. So it'll almost double in size, if you will. That's where we're at with that. Questions?
Let's hope we get some federal money so that we can continue to hire.
Right. All right, that's all I have, Chris and Mayor. I don't have anything else right now.
Anybody else have any other comments or thoughts for the day? Appreciate again your time and effort in this, and want everyone to stay safe.
Thank you, everybody. See you next week.
Thank you,
Enjoy
everyone.
your afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Have a good night, everyone, or afternoon.
A participant has left the meeting.
John Lubram.
Has left the meeting. A participant has left the meeting. A participant